15 of the most insightful and smart questions you can ask in your interview. Welcome back. This is Matt from Elevation Career, helping you to elevate your job search with proven practical tips. The questions you ask during the interview show that you're serious about the opportunity. They communicate that you're curious, engaging, and are genuinely keen on the role and company. This is why most interviewers equate lack of questions to passivity or a lack of interest. Not only that, but you can also use questions to assess if the potential employer or company aligns with your priorities and if their culture is suitable for you. As I often mention in my videos, as much as the employer is interviewing you, you are also interviewing them because you are the ultimate decision maker. What I'm going to do today is to go through each of these core questions and explain to you why it is important and how you can leverage the information from the employer to your advantage. Please also note that you do not have to use all the questions in this video. That'll be way too many, actually. For me, I would ask maybe 3 to 5 of them throughout the interview, depending on the situation and what I'm trying to accomplish. So with that in mind, let's go. Question number 1. Is there anything I can clarify for you? This is an extremely helpful question that you can ask at the end of the meeting that most candidates miss. You need to understand that it is quite common during the interview that the employer may have some unanswered concerns or confusion about your background. And it makes sense. It's not always possible to address all the questions due to lack of time, because they've already moved on to a different topic, or simply because the interviewer forgot to ask. The problem is, these concerns or confusion, when they're unaddressed, tend to end up as sources of doubt in the mind of the interviewer. As a result, they make the interviewers less convinced about your profile. By following up in this way, it gives you the opportunity to tackle any unspoken reservations, as well as demonstrating your ability to proactively resolve potential issues or misunderstanding. Number 2, have I answered all the questions you have for me? This is similar to the previous question. Is there anything I can clarify for you? As mentioned, interviewers will often miss or forget to ask some relevant questions. Questions about, for example, key skills or experiences that are central to the role, or some information they wanted to know about from you. Of course, the logical thing to do in such a case is to invite the candidate back to discuss these topics, but unfortunately, that rarely happens. On top of that, interviewers do not always remember all the conversations they had or questions that they asked during the meeting. It's just not possible when you're speaking to so many people. As a result, this is what often happens. When the interviewers go back to their notes on your interview and see that there is no mention of certain key skills and experiences, regardless of whether they asked about them or not, they will incorrectly assume it's because you didn't have them. What I'm saying is, regardless of whether the interviewer asked you about them or not, if you do not mention certain key skills or experiences, they will incorrectly and unfairly assume that it is because you do not have them. So by asking this question, you can avoid such potentially costly misunderstanding. Number 3, if I were given this opportunity, what are the first things I can do to add value or make your life easier? And this is one of my favorite questions, hands down. And it might just make the employer love you that much more because it speaks to the heart of the hiring managers. Let me explain. One of the most crucial truths about job search is that when an employer is looking to hire, it is because they're looking for someone who can help them meet their needs and add value to the employer and not the candidate. Let me say that again. The reason why any company decides to bring someone on board is because they need somebody to help them, the company, meet their goals. Therefore, from the employer's point of view, they will naturally be attracted to candidates who care about meeting the employer's needs and solving their problems. You see, most candidates do not talk like this or think like this during the interview. They're only concerned about how they want to grow and what they can get out of the opportunity. Therefore, when you ask a question about helping the employer, it'll be like a breath of fresh air that'll make you stand out immediately. And of course, once you have the answer to this question, how you can add value immediately, you can then emphasize your similar experiences that'll demonstrate how you can do exactly what the employer needs you to do. This is precisely how you can position yourself as the ideal candidate. Next, clarifying questions about your research. This is a question that you can use to clarify what you have researched about the employer. You can ask like this: during my research for this interview, I read about blank. It can be about the recent acquisition, expansion, product launch, earnings report, sales projection, etc. But make sure you choose something that is positive about the employer. That's really important. And then you ask a clarifying question by saying something like this: could you please tell me more about it? How will the expansion plans affect the growth in the region? How much of the global hiring will take place in Asia? What are some of the team's current initiatives that are designed to achieve the sales projection? By asking a question in this way, first, it shows that you have done your homework and preparation and that you are committed. It also demonstrates your analytical skills and curiosity to know more, all of which are qualities that most employers will value. One word of caution though: just make sure that you ask about a relevant topic, relevant to the position. You don't want to come across as just asking random questions for the sake of it, or bring up irrelevant topics, which will have the opposite effect to what we want. Next, clarifying questions about the interview. This one is similar to the clarifying questions about your research. The difference is that you're now asking about what you discussed during the interview, not your prior preparation. It goes something like this: during the interview, we discussed blank. It can be about the upcoming project, major initiatives, deliverables, teams, targets, and etc. And then you ask a clarifying question like the following: could you please tell me more about the projects? What are the timelines for the targets that you mentioned? What are some of the challenges that you had to overcome for the regional program so far? How does this role fit into the overall goal of the team? Asking clarifying questions like this about what you discussed is one of the best ways to demonstrate that you're a good listener, show that you are taking a genuine interest in the topic, and encourage engaging conversations. What are some of your favorite aspects about working here in this organization? This question is designed to help you get some insight into the organizational culture. Most people find the company's culture to have a direct impact on their job satisfaction. Thus, it is important to have an idea about what you can expect to experience on a day-to-day basis, whether it's positive or negative. By asking this question, you can find out what the interviewer appreciates about the organization, which may very well be something that's important to you too. On the flip side, if the interviewer cannot give you any positive or any concrete responses, it may also be an indication that he or she isn't that happy in their current role, which is obviously something you need to consider or may want to investigate further. Another way to ask this question is: what's your favorite part about the job? This question may offer additional insights or some nuance about the pros and cons for the position specifically. What are some of the reasons that made you want to stay in this company for so long? This is another question about the positive culture or aspects about the employer. If the interviewer or the hiring manager has stayed with the company for an extended period of time, you can ask this question to find out some of the more in-depth or longer-term benefits of being with this organization, which again may be quite relevant to you too. What would you say is the most challenging part about working in this company? This question is the opposite of the previous ones. As much as you want to know about the positive aspects of working for an organization, the challenges you might face may be even more pertinent to your decision-making process. We've all heard of people who are super excited about joining a new employer only to start again soon due to unforeseen issues with the organization or team. While no job on earth will be perfect, of course, and the challenges do not mean you cannot overcome them either, it is still helpful to gather as much information as possible about the working environment or culture before making any long-term commitments. How would you describe the teamwork within the organization? With this question, you're taking a more direct approach to asking about the team culture, specifically about the relationship and collaboration. Obviously, this is a crucial topic. In fact, one of the most common reasons why professionals decide to leave their employer is due to conflict with other people in the team. If the interviewer or the hiring manager describes their teamwork as highly collaborative, and maybe even share about some of the recent team building activities, for example, you can know that at least they prioritize or value team unity. On the other hand, if the interviewer or the manager do not know how to answer this question, have little to say about this topic, or mentions things like how they value individual performances over working together, for example, that's an indication about their priority or lack thereof when it comes to teamwork and culture. Who are the main stakeholders or clients for this position? Knowing who your main stakeholders or clients are is vital for success. These are the people who will have the biggest say about your performance results, and thus it's crucial that you know how to work with them on a regular basis. Therefore, many employers will want to find out if you have any experience working with the same or similar group of people in the past and whether you understand what it takes to do so. And then, once you know who the key stakeholders or clients are, you can then share your success stories working with the same or similar group of people in the past, which will help you assure or convince the employer that you are the right person for the job even more. What about the previous person that made them so successful in this role? If you know that the previous person in the role was promoted or performed really well, this question can offer some real-life insights into what the employer considers to be most important in the position. You may be able to find out some of the central goals or deliverables, as well as how you can start producing those results fast. You may even want to emulate what the previous person has done as a starting point. And of course, during the interview, you should share your background or experience that's relevant to what the previous person has done, so you can demonstrate how you will also be successful in this position. What qualities or competencies were lacking from the previous candidates that you have interviewed so far? If you know that this position has been open for a while, this question can be extremely insightful. By asking why the previous candidates did not make it, you're essentially asking what are the most crucial qualities or experiences the employer is looking for in a successful candidate. You may be able to find additional insights that were not mentioned before, which you can then emphasize in your responses to position yourself as the ideal candidate. This is one of my favorite questions, and you'll be surprised at how helpful it can be for you too. How would you describe your management style? Or what would you say is your management style? As mentioned already, one of the most common reasons why professionals decide to leave their firm is related to people, especially their relationship with the manager. Thus, it pays to know more about the manager's working style and approach to management. Pay attention to the adjectives that they use to describe their methods. Do they describe it as laid back, hands off, or hands on, detailed, engaging, and etc.? I do not believe that there is any one management style that is inherently superior to others. A hands-off approach may offer more autonomy, for example, but may lack the necessary guidance or learning opportunities, and vice versa. Of course, the best approach, I believe, would depend on the individual and the type of work. But whatever the style may be, you can decide if it is something that you want to work with, or at least you will know what to expect and how to adapt accordingly. One caveat though, the best or the most accurate way to find out about the management style is to ask other people, especially if you know someone in the team already. But of course, that's not always feasible, and you can still find helpful insights by asking the hiring manager directly too. What metrics or targets will be used to assess my performance in the first 3, 6, or 12 months? This is an absolutely vital question you should always raise at some point during the interview process, especially when you speak to your future manager. If you do not ask this question, or if you do not have a clear idea about your targets, what your targets will be, essentially you are taking a gambit. You need to know what the company expects you to achieve right away and whether it is even realistic or not. It is because it'll have a direct impact on your performance assessment, promotion, or even your job security. In the case the employer cannot provide a concrete target yet, it means you may need to take the initiative to proactively define your goals, which is helpful information to have as well. Early on in my career, I was looking for a job and was having an interview for a senior position in sales. Everything about the company, the prospect, and even the hiring manager seemed really positive, and they wanted to make me an offer. That's when we started discussing my first year target, which, long story short, turned out to be quite unreasonable according to the market standard. Please don't get me wrong. I have nothing against challenging targets. They can be effective tools for motivation and growth. But there is a big difference between challenging goals versus unreasonable ones without the necessary provision or support to achieve them. So I did more research, and eventually I found out that the culture of this employer was overly aggressive and the attrition rate was really high too, which is a major red flag for me. As a result, I chose not to join this company, which I believe was absolutely the right decision. But the reason I was able to come to this conclusion was because I wanted to clarify my initial target, which helped me make the right decision. Before we go to our last question, if this video is helping you in some way, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It would mean a lot and help me to create more useful content in the future. If you have any questions or if anything from today resonated with you, please feel free to share them in the comment section too. Thanks again, and here is our final question. When will I hear back? This is a very practical question, not because you'll always hear back when the employer says you would, which is rarely the case, but the opposite, because you will know when to follow up if you do not hear from them. One of the most frustrating things about job search and interviews is dealing with radio silence from the employer after an interview. But at the same time, many people do not like to follow up because we don't want to seem pushy or desperate. As a result, we waste time and energy worrying about when is the right time to send a chaser and often put it off entirely. If you ask this question, you can put all those worries to rest. Simply follow up for feedback as soon as the timeline that they provided is over, and you don't even need to think about it. You'll be surprised at how often the employer will come back to you and provide timely updates when you ask them. One of the hardest questions job seekers often face is, tell me about your weaknesses. Not knowing how to handle this question can lead to the employer losing all of their interest in your candidacy. If you want to learn how to respond with the right message and with confidence, click here to learn more. Until next time, wish you all the best with your job search.